General Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue and green planet spin slowly below. Earth looked peaceful from space. White clouds drifted over brown continents and blue oceans. It reminded him of his homeworld before the Empire turned it into a military base. The general was tall and lean, with dark green scales covering his reptilian body. His yellow eyes had seen many worlds fall to the hegemony fleet. This would be conquest number 848. Just another primitive planet to add to the Empire's collection. Begin the demonstration, Zethkar ordered his weapons officer. 3 bright beams of energy shot down from the fleet. They struck military bases on different continents. The explosions were visible from space as orange flowers blooming on the planet's surface. Zethkar watched through his scanner as the human military installations turned to glass and ash. This was how it always worked. Show the primitives what hegemony weapons could do. Watch them panic. Wait for their leaders to call and beg for mercy. Accept their surrender. Install a puppet government. Move on to the next world, but something was wrong. Sir, his communication officer said, we are not receiving any surrender requests. Zethkar's tail twitched with annoyance. How long has it been? 6 hours since the demonstration strikes, General. Perhaps they need more time to understand what happened. These humans seem particularly primitive. They still burn chemical fuel to reach their own moon. But 6 hours turned into 12, then 24. Instead of surrender messages, Zethkar's fleet intercepted thousands of human communications. The strange part was what the humans were talking about. They were not screaming about gods or magic. They were analyzing the weapon strikes with scientific instruments. Human scientists were measuring blast patterns, radiation signatures, and energy outputs. They were trying to figure out how hegemony weapons worked. Show me their television broadcasts, Zethkar commanded. The main screen filled with images from human news stations. Instead of panic, Zethkar saw organized activity. Human military forces were moving equipment and personnel. Their leaders were giving speeches about resistance and unity. Scientists were holding press conferences about alien technology. One human scientist stood in front of cameras holding a piece of metal. This fragment shows clear signs of exotic matter manipulation, the human said. The molecular structure suggests controlled fusion at the atomic level. If we can understand the binding mechanism, we might be able to replicate the process. Zethkar's jaw dropped open. The human was holding a piece of his ship's hull plating and talking about it like a research project. Sir, the communication officer called out. The humans are broadcasting technical data about our weapons across their global network. What kind of technical data? Energy wavelength analysis, material composition reports, theoretical papers about our fusion systems. They are sharing everything they learn with their entire species. This had never happened before. When the hegemony attacked primitive worlds, the natives usually fell to their knees and worshipped the aliens as gods. They did not start reverse engineering the weapons, but the real shock came on the second day. General, his intelligence officer reported, human military forces are coordinating globally. Explain. They have no unified government, sir. This planet has nearly 200 separate nations. Many of them have been enemies for centuries, but they are now sharing military intelligence, resources, and personnel as if they were one army. Zethkar pulled up tactical displays showing human military movements. Ancient enemies were working together. Humans who had been at war just days before were now planning joint operations against the hegemony fleet. How is this possible? Zethkar muttered. His intelligence officer pointed to intercepts of human communications. They appear to have something they call the Internet, sir. It allows instant communication across their entire planet. They are using it to coordinate resistance efforts. On the screen, Zethkar watched human military convoys crossing international borders. Russian scientists were working with American engineers. Chinese factories were producing equipment designed by European researchers. African nations were sharing rare earth minerals with Asian electronics manufacturers. They are treating us as a common threat, Zethkar realized. Instead of competing with each other, they are uniting against us. Yes, sir. Their entire species is now focused on one goal, defeating the hegemony fleet. Zethkar had conquered worlds with billions of inhabitants. He had faced species with energy weapons and force fields, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just resisting. They were learning. On the third day, things got worse, sir, the weapons officer reported. We have lost contact with Reconnaissance Drone Formation 7. Lost contact how? They appear to have been destroyed, sir. By human aircraft. Impossible. Human aircraft cannot reach orbital altitude. These were not normal human aircraft, sir. Scanning the wreckage suggests they modified civilian rockets with our own thruster technology. Zethkar stared at the tactical display. Red dots marked where his drones had been destroyed. The humans had somehow attached hegemony engines to their primitive rockets and used them as weapons. How did they get our thruster technology? From the reconnaissance drones they shot down yesterday, sir. It was a feedback loop. Every hegemony system the humans captured gave them more knowledge to build better weapons. Every weapon they built let them capture more hegemony systems. Sir, the communication officer interrupted. We are receiving a message from the human planet. Finally. Their surrender? No, sir. They want to negotiate. The main screen flickered and showed a human face. The creature was small and soft-looking with pale skin and brown hair. It wore a dark suit and sat behind a wooden desk. I am Secretary General Martinez of the United Nations, the human said. We represent the people of Earth in this matter. Zethkar activated the communication link. I am General Zethkar of the Hegemony Fleet. You will surrender immediately or face total destruction. The human smiled. It was not the expression of a defeated primitive. General, we have analyzed your fleet capabilities. You have 47 ships in orbit. Based on energy output from your demonstration strikes, you have enough firepower to destroy our major cities. But you cannot destroy our entire civilization without damaging the planet beyond usefulness. Zethkar's tongue flicked out nervously. The human was right. Furthermore, the human continued, we have examined the wreckage from your attacks. Your technology is impressive but not beyond our understanding. We are already developing countermeasures. You cannot resist the might of the hegemony empire, Zethkar said, but his voice lacked conviction. We are not trying to resist you, General. We are trying to understand you. And once we understand something, we can usually improve on it. The communication ended. Zethkar stared at the empty screen. In his 300 years of military service, he had never heard a primitive species talk about improving on hegemony technology. They usually begged for mercy or offered tribute. But these humans were different. They looked at his advanced weapons and saw homework problems. They faced his superior technology and started taking notes. For the first time since arriving at Earth, General Zethkar felt something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. These humans were not acting like any species in the hegemony database. They were not following the script, and Zethkar was beginning to suspect that was a very dangerous thing. 3 weeks had passed since General Zethkar arrived at Earth. By now his conquest should have been complete. The humans should have been bowing to their new hegemony masters. Instead, Zethkar found himself staring at reports that made no sense. Sir, his tactical officer said, we have lost another supply convoy. Zethkar's claws tapped against his command chair. How many ships this time? 3 cargo vessels and their escort. The humans used modified passenger aircraft as guided missiles. They packed them with explosives and crashed them into our ships. Passenger aircraft cannot reach space. They launched them from cargo planes at high altitude, sir. The passenger aircraft had been stripped down and fitted with rocket boosters made from our own technology. Zethkar's headache was getting worse. Every day, the humans found new ways to turn civilian equipment into weapons. They had turned crop-dusting planes into chemical weapon delivery systems. They used construction equipment to build underground bunkers that his scanners could not detect. They even modified children's toys to carry explosives into his landing zones. What is the status of our ground forces? Zethkar asked. His intelligence officer looked uncomfortable. Morale is low, sir. The humans have begun psychological warfare operations. Explain. They have breached our communication networks and are broadcasting human culture to our troops. Music, stories, philosophical texts. Many of our soldiers are requesting transfers off-world. Zethkar pulled up the intercepted broadcasts on his screen. Human voices sang strange melodies about freedom and hope. Human writers told stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Human philosophers talked about the rights of individuals to choose their own destiny. These concepts were forbidden in the hegemony empire. Citizens served the state. Individual desires were irrelevant. But the human ideas were spreading through his fleet like a virus. Sir, the communication officer reported, we have 17 more requests for political asylum from our own crew members. Denied. Anyone caught listening to human broadcasts will be executed for treason. But Zethkar knew the executions would not solve the problem. The humans had done something impossible. They had made his own soldiers question their loyalty to the Empire. The tactical situation was even worse. Human ground forces refused to fight like normal armies. They did not line up in formations or hold territory. Instead, they appeared everywhere and nowhere. Hegemony troops would secure a city block only to find humans attacking from sewers and subway tunnels. They would establish a perimeter, and humans would emerge from abandoned buildings behind them. They would patrol a neighborhood and human children would drop grenades from windows. "Show me the latest combat reports," Zethkar ordered. The screen filled with video from his ground forces. Hegemony soldiers in power armor were being harassed by humans with improvised weapons. A human grandmother threw a bottle filled with acid at a patrol. A group of human teenagers used mirrors to reflect laser beams back at his troops. A human businessman detonated a car bomb made from fertilizer and fuel oil. "Sir," the tactical officer said, "the humans are using their internet to coordinate these attacks. When one group discovers an effective tactic, they share it with fighters on other continents within minutes." Zethkar watched video of human resistance fighters. They were not professional soldiers. Most were civilians who had picked up weapons when the invasion began, but they fought with desperate creativity that his military academy had never prepared him for. "They are violating every rule of warfare," Zethkar muttered. "Sir, proper military doctrine states that armies fight armies. Soldiers engage soldiers. But these humans have made their entire population into combatants. There are no non-military targets because everyone is involved in the resistance." A new report appeared on his screen. Human factories had stopped producing consumer goods and switched to military equipment. But they were not building normal weapons. They were creating devices that no military manual described. Humans had built electromagnetic pulse generators from microwave ovens. They created armor-piercing bullets from recycled steel. They manufactured night vision goggles from smartphone cameras. They turned kitchen chemicals into explosives and medical supplies into biological weapons. "Sir," his science officer reported, "the humans have achieved something unprecedented." "What now?" "They have compressed their entire industrial capacity into weapons production. Every factory, every workshop, every garage is now part of their military infrastructure. They are manufacturing war materials faster than we can destroy their production facilities." Zethkar studied the economic data. Human industrial output had tripled in 3 weeks. Their innovation rate had increased by factors that his computers could not calculate. They were designing new weapons faster than his forces could develop countermeasures. But the most disturbing report came from his intelligence division. "General," the intelligence chief said quietly, "we have a problem with human information warfare." "Speak." "They have hacked our tactical databases and stolen our military protocols. But that is not the worst part. They are now broadcasting our invasion plans to our enemies." "What enemies?" "Other species that the Empire has conquered, sir. The humans have contacted 17 different alien civilizations and shared our fleet positions, weapon specifications, and strategic weaknesses." Zethkar felt his blood turn cold. "They are encouraging rebellion throughout the Empire?" "Yes, sir. They have created what they call an underground network. Conquered species across the galaxy are now communicating with each other for the first time. They are sharing information about hegemony vulnerabilities and coordinating resistance movements." This was beyond disaster. This was catastrophe. The humans had not just resisted conquest. They had turned their invasion into a spark that could ignite rebellion across the entire hegemony empire. "Sir," the communication officer announced, "we are receiving a message from Earth." The screen showed the same human from before. Secretary General Martinez still looked calm and confident. "General Zethkar," the human said, "we hope you have been learning as much about us as we have been learning about you." "What do you want?" Zethkar snarled. "To make you an offer. We know that your empire rules through fear and violence. We know that your own people are not happy under hegemony control. We also know that you are a soldier, not a politician." Zethkar said nothing. "We propose a ceasefire," the human continued. "Not surrender. Partnership. Help us overthrow the hegemony empire and we will help you build something better. You are asking me to commit treason. We are asking you to choose freedom over slavery. For yourself and for your people." The communication ended. Zethkar sat in silence, staring at the empty screen. Around him, his bridge crew worked quietly, but he could see the doubt in their movements. The humans had planted seeds of rebellion in his own ship. For the first time in his military career, General Zethkar wondered if he was fighting for the right side. Outside his viewports, Earth continued to spin. The blue and green planet that should have been conquered weeks ago. The world full of creatures who refused to accept defeat. The humans were not just unstoppable. They were contagious. And Zethkar was beginning to understand that this was the most dangerous thing of all. 2 months into what should have been a 3-day conquest, General Zethkar no longer slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw human faces. Not the terrified faces of conquered populations, but the determined expressions of people who refused to give up. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "the humans have neutralized another plasma cannon battery." Zethkar's claws scraped against his command console. "How?" "They use mirrors, sir." "Hundreds of them. They focused our own plasma beams back at the weapon emplacements." "Mirrors?" "They defeated military-grade plasma weapons with mirrors." "Yes, sir." "They appear to have salvaged the mirrors from destroyed buildings and vehicles. They arranged them in mathematical patterns that concentrated the reflected energy." Zethkar pulled up the tactical footage. Human civilians were running across a battlefield, carrying sheets of reflective metal. They moved like dancers, positioning each mirror at precise angles. When his plasma cannons fired, the beams bounced between mirrors and struck his own positions. "Who taught them to do this?" Zethkar demanded. "According to intercepted communications, it was a human child, sir. A 12-year-old female named Sarah Chen. She posted the mathematical calculations on their internet. Within hours, humans across the planet were building mirror arrays. A human child had figured out how to defeat weapons that had conquered entire star systems." Zethkar felt something crack inside his chest. "Show me the latest intelligence reports," he ordered, his tactical display filled with data that made no sense. Human adaptation rates had exceeded all known biological parameters. They were learning faster than his computers could model. His electromagnetic pulse weapons had been effective for exactly 6 days. Then humans started building Faraday cages from shopping carts and metal fencing. His kinetic projectiles worked for 2 weeks before humans developed reactive armor, made from car tires and steel plates. His sonic disruptors lasted 3 days before humans created noise-canceling headphones from electronic waste. "Sir," his science officer said, "I have completed the analysis you requested." "Report." "The humans are not just adapting to our weapons. They are improving on them. Every countermeasure they develop is superior to the original design." Zethkar stared at the data. Humans had taken his plasma technology and made it more efficient. They had copied his force field generators and made them more stable. They had reverse-engineered his vehicles and made them faster. How is this possible? Unknown, sir. Human brains appear to function differently than any species in our database. They do not think in linear patterns. They make intuitive leaps that our logic systems cannot follow. Give me an example. Yesterday, a human engineer saw one of our damaged fighters. Instead of trying to repair it, he combined it with a human helicopter and a civilian truck. The result was a flying vehicle that our pilots cannot match for speed or maneuverability. That makes no sense. You cannot simply combine random technologies. The humans can, sir. They see connections that we miss. They find solutions that we never consider. Zethkar's strategic AI had been his most trusted advisor for decades. The computer could analyze thousands of variables and predict enemy behavior with 98% accuracy. But now the AI was useless. "Computer," Zethkar said, "predict human response to orbital bombardment of their capital cities." "Unable to compute," the AI replied. "Human decision patterns do not follow logical parameters. Previous behavior suggests they will choose options that appear suboptimal, but achieve unexpected results." "Explain." "Humans consistently sacrifice military advantages to protect civilians. This should make them easy to defeat. However, these sacrifices inspire greater resistance from surviving populations. The net result is increased combat effectiveness. Zethkar had seen this happen repeatedly. Human soldiers would abandon strong positions to rescue wounded comrades. Human pilots would crash their aircraft rather than allow them to be captured. Human civilians would share food with enemy prisoners while their own children went hungry. These actions violated every principle of military logic. They weakened human forces in the short term, but somehow they made humans stronger overall. Sir, his intelligence officer interrupted, we have another problem. What now? Our own troops are beginning to exhibit unusual behavior patterns. Zethkar's tail went rigid. Explain. 3 of our soldiers rescued human civilians from a burning building yesterday. 2 more shared their rations with human children. 1 has requested permission to help repair a human hospital. This is contamination. Order psychological evaluation for all ground forces. Sir, the evaluations show that our troops are not mentally compromised. They are making conscious choices to help humans. Why? They report that human behavior has made them question their understanding of proper conduct. Many express admiration for human courage and selflessness. This was the worst possible news. The humans were not just defeating his weapons. They were converting his soldiers. Zethkar accessed the personal logs of his ground commanders. The reports painted a disturbing picture. Hardened hegemony veterans were writing about human bravery, with something approaching awe. One commander described watching a human doctor treat wounded hegemony soldiers while his own hospital was under attack. Another wrote about a human teacher who continued holding classes in a bomb shelter to keep children calm during air raids. A third reported seeing a human family share their last food with alien prisoners of war. These actions serve no strategic purpose, Zethkar muttered. They gain nothing from helping us, but even as he said it, he knew it was not true. The humans gained something valuable from these actions. They gained moral authority. They proved that their cause was just and his was not. Sir, the communication officer announced, incoming transmission from the human planet. The screen showed a different human this time, a young female with dark skin and intelligent eyes. She wore a military uniform but carried no weapons. General Zethkar, she said, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. The same child who had designed the mirror array was now an admiral. Somehow the humans had promoted a 12-year-old to military command. It should have been laughable. Instead, it terrified him. What do you want? Zethkar asked. To show you something, Admiral Chen replied. Computer, display tactical analysis. The screen filled with a detailed breakdown of his fleet capabilities. The humans had mapped every ship, identified every weapon system, and calculated every vulnerability. Their intelligence was perfect. How did you obtain this information? We asked your soldiers, Admiral Chen said simply. The ones who defected last week. They were very helpful. Impossible. Hegemony soldiers cannot defect. Loyalty is programmed into our genetic structure. General, you cannot program loyalty. You can only inspire it, and fear is not inspiration. Admiral Chen's image was replaced by video footage. It showed hegemony soldiers working alongside humans to build shelters for refugees. The aliens and humans were laughing together as they carried supplies. Your people are not naturally evil, Admiral Chen continued. They have been forced to serve an evil system, but given the choice, they prefer to build rather than destroy. Zethkar watched his own troops helping human children. Hardened warriors were teaching alien games to human youngsters. Veterans of 100 conquests were learning to smile again. We are offering your entire fleet asylum, Admiral Chen said, not as prisoners. As partners, help us defeat the hegemony empire, and we will help you build a better future. The empire will send more fleets, larger ones. Then we will convert them too, or defeat them. We are very good at both. The communication ended. Zethkar sat alone on his bridge, surrounded by officers who were no longer sure whose side they wanted to be on. Outside his viewports, Earth spun peacefully in space. The small blue planet that had changed everything. The world that had shown his soldiers what they could become instead of what they had been forced to be. General Zethkar realized he was no longer fighting a war of conquest. He was fighting a war of ideas. And in that war, the humans had already won. The only question now was whether he would be wise enough to surrender. 4 months had passed since General Zethkar arrived at Earth. 4 months that had changed everything he thought he knew about warfare, conquest, and the nature of intelligent life itself. Sir, his tactical officer reported, long-range sensors are detecting spacecraft approaching from Earth. Zethkar's blood went cold. Human spacecraft? Yes, sir. 12 vessels of unknown design. They appear to be using modified hegemony engines, but the hull configurations are unlike anything in our database. This was the moment Zethkar had been dreading. For weeks, his intelligence reports had warned that humans were building their own space fleet. They had salvaged crashed hegemony ships, studied captured technology, and somehow compressed centuries of aerospace development into a desperate sprint. Battle stations, Zethkar ordered, but his voice lacked conviction. On the tactical display, the human ships moved like nothing he had ever seen. They did not follow standard formation patterns. Instead, they flew in chaotic swarms that shifted and changed unpredictably. Some ships accelerated toward his fleet while others drifted backward. A few spun in spirals that served no apparent tactical purpose. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "the human ships are not following any known combat doctrine." "Then improvise. Target the lead vessel." "Which one is the lead vessel, sir?" Zethkar studied the display. The human ships had no clear hierarchy. They moved independently but somehow coordinated their actions. It was like watching a flock of birds or a school of fish. Target all of them. Fire when ready. The hegemony fleet unleashed its full firepower. Plasma beams and kinetic projectiles filled space with deadly energy. But the human ships simply were not there when the weapons arrived. They had scattered in directions that seemed random, but somehow avoided every shot. "How are they predicting our targeting solutions?" Zethkar demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their evasion patterns make no mathematical sense." Then the human ships began their attack. But instead of using energy weapons or missiles, they did something unprecedented. They rammed his vessels. "Sir, the humans are using their ships as projectiles." Zethkar watched in horror as human pilots deliberately crashed their vessels into his fleet. But these were not suicide attacks. At the last moment, the human crews ejected in escape pods while their ships, packed with explosives, tore through hegemony hulls. "They are treating their spacecraft as expendable ammunition," his tactical officer said in disbelief. "No hegemony pilot would sacrifice their ship like that." "The humans are not hegemony pilots, sir. They think differently." 3 of his destroyers were crippled in the first 5 minutes of combat. The human attack was insane, wasteful, and completely effective. They were winning by ignoring every rule of space warfare that Zethkar had ever learned. "Sir," the communication officer announced, "incoming message from the human fleet." The screen showed Admiral Sarah Chen again. But now she was aboard a spacecraft, wearing a pressure suit designed from captured hegemony equipment. Behind her, human and alien crew members worked together at control stations. "General Zethkar," she said, "we need to talk. You are attacking my fleet. There is nothing to discuss." "General, we are not your enemy. The hegemony empire is your enemy. And ours." Before Zethkar could respond, his intelligence officer interrupted. "Sir, priority message from Imperial Command." A new image appeared on screen. High Admiral Korath, Supreme Commander of the hegemony fleet, stared down at Zethkar with cold reptilian eyes. "General," Korath said, "you have failed in your mission. The conquest of Earth should have been completed months ago. Sir, the humans have proven more resourceful than anticipated. I request additional forces and—" "No." Korath's voice was final. "You have become a liability. Imperial Command has decided to sanitize the Earth system." Zethkar felt his heart stop beating. "Sanitize?" "Planet killer weapons are already en route. The Earth system will be sterilized in 72 hours. Your fleet is ordered to withdraw immediately." "But sir, there are hegemony personnel on the planet. My own soldiers." "Acceptable losses. You have allowed contamination to spread through your ranks. Those personnel are compromised and must be eliminated along with the human infection." The communication ended. Zethkar stared at the empty screen, understanding finally dawning. The Empire had never intended for him to succeed. They had sent him to Earth as a test. When the humans proved too dangerous to conquer, the Empire decided to destroy everything rather than risk the spread of human ideas, including his own people. "Sir," Admiral Chen's voice returned. "We monitored that transmission." Zethkar looked at the human admiral. "You heard?" "Yes, and we have a proposal. The Empire will destroy this entire system. There is no escape. There is always an escape, General. We just have to create it ourselves." Another human appeared on screen beside Admiral Chen. This one was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. "General Zethkar," the older human said, "I am Secretary General Martinez. We have been studying your empire for months. We know how it operates. We know its weaknesses, and we know how to defeat it. Impossible. The hegemony has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Empires that rule through fear always fall eventually," Martinez replied. "Fear is not sustainable. It requires constant force to maintain. But hope? Hope spreads on its own." Admiral Chen leaned forward. General, we are offering your fleet sanctuary, not as prisoners of war but as allies. Help us fight the Empire and we will help you free your people. The Empire has planet-killer weapons. Your world will be destroyed in 3 days. Not if we stop them first, Admiral Chen said with quiet confidence. Zethkar laughed bitterly. You cannot stop planet killers with 12 improvised spacecraft. You are right, Admiral Chen agreed. We cannot stop them with 12 ships. But we can stop them with your fleet and our 12 ships working together. You want me to commit treason against my own empire? We want you to commit loyalty to your own people, Martinez said. The soldiers who trusted you to lead them. The crew members who followed your orders. The civilians on the planets you conquered who deserved better than slavery. Zethkar thought about his soldiers who had defected to help human refugees. He thought about the bridge crew who had watched human broadcasts and started asking questions about freedom. He thought about the hundreds of worlds the Empire had conquered. The billions of lives crushed under hegemony rule. Even if we could stop the planet killers, Zethkar said slowly, the Empire would send more fleets. Larger ones. Then we convert those too, Admiral Chen replied. Or we defeat them. General, humanity has shown your people what life could be like without fear. Do you really think they want to go back to the old way? Zethkar looked around his bridge. His officers were listening to every word. He saw hope in their eyes for the first time in their lives. If I agree to this alliance, Zethkar said, there will be no going back. The Empire will mark us all as traitors. General, Admiral Chen smiled. The Empire already marked you as expendable. At least with us, you will be family. Outside the viewports, Zethkar could see human ships moving among his fleet. Not attacking now, but waiting, ready to fight alongside the people they had been trying to conquer just hours before. For the first time in 4 months, General Zethkar smiled. Very well, he said. Let us go stop some planet killers. The alliance that would change the galaxy forever had just been born. 6 months after first contact, General Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship as the combined human hegemony fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Around him, human and alien crew members worked together at control stations. The sight still amazed him. Jump coordinates confirmed, reported Lieutenant Torres, a human navigator who had learned to operate hegemony systems in just 2 weeks. Target Korath Prime Imperial Command Headquarters. Zethkar nodded. Admiral Chen, are your ships ready? On the communication screen, Admiral Sarah Chen smiled from the bridge of her flagship. Behind her, former hegemony soldiers worked alongside human engineers to maintain the hybrid technology that had become their signature. Ready, General. The Liberation Fleet is at your command. Liberation Fleet. That was what they called themselves now. Not a conquest force or an invasion armada, a Liberation Fleet. The name said everything about how much had changed. All ships, Zethkar announced on the fleet-wide channel. Initiate jump sequence. The stars stretched into lines as 67 ships entered hyperspace. 45 hegemony vessels that had chosen freedom over fear. 22 human ships built from captured technology and desperate innovation. Together, they represented something that had never existed before. A galactic rebellion with a chance of success. General, his intelligence officer said, would you like to review the mission briefing one more time? No need, Zethkar replied. I have it memorized. But he did not need the briefing to remember how they had gotten here. The battle against the planet-killer weapons had been desperate. 3 massive hegemony dreadnoughts armed with world-destroying weapons, defended by escort fleets. The humans had wanted to attack directly. Zethkar had convinced them to try negotiation first. They had broadcast Admiral Chen's message to the dreadnought crews, explaining what the Empire really thought of them. Disposable tools to be discarded when convenient. 2 of the 3 dreadnought crews had mutinied immediately. The 3rd had fought until human pilots, flying ships made from kitchen appliances and scrap metal, had somehow disabled weapons designed to crack planets. Sir, the communication officer announced, we are receiving signals from across the galaxy. Resistance movements? Zethkar asked. Yes, sir. 17 star systems have declared independence from the Empire. They are requesting assistance from the Liberation Fleet. Zethkar studied the reports flooding in from across hegemony space. Worlds that had been conquered decades ago were rising up. Species that had been enslaved for generations were fighting for freedom. The human virus of hope was spreading faster than Imperial forces could contain it. General, Admiral Chen said from the screen, We need to make a decision about deployment. We cannot help everyone at once. This was the hardest part of command, choosing which worlds to save first. Which species would have to wait for liberation? The humans had taught him that every life mattered, but military reality meant some lives would be lost while others were saved. Priority to systems with the largest populations, Zethkar decided, and to worlds with strategic resources that can support more liberation efforts. Agreed. Sir, there is something else. We are receiving messages from Imperial Command. A new image appeared on screen. High Admiral Korath looked older than Zethkar remembered. Stress lines marked his reptilian face. Behind him, Imperial staff officers worked frantically at control stations. General Zethkar, Korath said, you have committed the greatest treason in Imperial history. I have committed the greatest service to galactic civilization in Imperial history. Zethkar replied calmly. The Empire offers you one chance at redemption. Surrender your fleet and return to Imperial service. Your crews will be re-educated rather than executed. Zethkar laughed. Re-educated? You mean reprogrammed to forget that freedom exists? Freedom is chaos, General. The Empire brings order and stability. The Empire brings fear and slavery. I have seen what civilization looks like without fear. I prefer it. Admiral Chen leaned into view of the camera. Hi, Admiral Korath. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Liberation Fleet. We offer you the same choice we offered General Zethkar. Join us and help us build something better. Korath's eyes narrowed. You are a child playing with forces beyond your understanding. I am a human being offering you a chance at redemption. The choice is yours. The communication ended. Zethkar looked at Admiral Chen with admiration. She was 20 years old now, but she had the wisdom of someone 10 times her age. The humans age differently under pressure. Instead of breaking, they became stronger. Sir, the navigation officer announced, dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds. All ships to battle stations, Zethkar ordered. But remember, our goal is liberation, not destruction. Try to minimize casualties. The fleet emerged from hyperspace in the Korath system. Before them lay the heart of the Hegemony Empire. Hundreds of ships, orbital defense platforms, the command centers that had coordinated galactic oppression for millennia. Sir, the tactical officer reported, the Imperial fleet is moving to intercept. 200 vessels including 5 super dreadnoughts. Admiral Chen, your assessment? They outnumber us 3-1, Admiral Chen replied cheerfully. Sounds like a fair fight. Only humans would consider being outnumbered 3-1 a fair fight. But Zethkar had learned not to doubt human confidence. They had a talent for making impossible odds seem routine. All ships, Zethkar broadcast, begin liberation protocol. Instead of attacking the Imperial fleet, they began broadcasting. Not propaganda or demands for surrender. They transmitted the truth. Videos of human hegemony cooperation, records of Imperial orders to eliminate their own troops, testimonies from liberated worlds about life after freedom. Sir, the communication officer said, we are receiving responses from the Imperial fleet. The tactical display showed something unprecedented. Imperial ships were slowing down. Some were stopping completely. A few were changing course to join the Liberation Fleet. 17 Imperial vessels have requested permission to defect. The officer continued. 23 more are reporting mutinies in progress. The Imperial fleet was disintegrating before the battle even began. Fear could compel obedience, but it could not inspire loyalty. When Imperial crews saw an alternative, they chose freedom. General Zethkar, Admiral Chen said, I think we are going to need a bigger fleet. Hours later, the Liberation Fleet had grown to over 300 ships. Former Imperial commanders worked alongside human engineers to retrofit vessels for humanitarian missions. The rebellion had become a revolution. Zethkar stood in his ready room writing his final report. Not to Imperial command, but to the historical record. Future generations would want to understand how the galaxy had changed so quickly. Personal log. General Zethkar, former Hegemony Fleet. Current Liberation Fleet. Final entry. When I arrived at Earth 6 months ago, I thought I was beginning another routine conquest. I thought humans were just another primitive species to be enslaved and forgotten. I was wrong about everything. Humans do not just resist conquest, they transform it into opportunity. They do not just survive impossible odds, they use adversity to become stronger than they were before. Most importantly, they do not just defeat their enemies. They show their enemies how to become better than they ever thought possible. The humans have a phrase, Adapt, overcome, excel. But that does not capture the full truth. Humans do not just adapt to challenges. They adapt challenges to serve their purposes. They do not just overcome obstacles. They turn obstacles into advantages. They do not just excel at what they do. They excel at becoming what they need to become. This is why humans are unstoppable. Not because they cannot be defeated in battle. Not because they have superior technology or greater numbers. Humans are unstoppable because they refuse to accept that any situation cannot be improved. The hegemony empire ruled through fear for 3,000 years. Humans destroyed it in 6 months by offering hope. They showed the galaxy what we could become instead of what we had been forced to accept. I came to Earth as a conqueror. I leave as a liberator. The humans did not defeat me. They freed me. They freed all of us. The galaxy will never be the same. For the first time in millennia, the future is bright. End log. Zethkar sealed the recording and transmitted it to the archives. Somewhere in the galaxy, other species would find it and understand what humans had accomplished. Outside his viewport, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, the small world that had changed everything. The planet where a child had figured out how to defeat plasma weapons with mirrors, where ordinary people had decided that freedom was worth fighting for, where humans had proven that hope was the most powerful force in the universe. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system. General, we are receiving distress calls from the Centauri sector. 3 worlds requesting immediate assistance. Zethkar smiled and headed for the bridge. There was more work to do, more worlds to liberate, more people to free. The humans had started something that could not be stopped, and Zethkar was proud to be part of it. The age of fear was ending. The age of hope had begun, and it was unstoppable.